Okay, today we are going to pick up where we left off last class, and we are going to continue with our Pocketful of Poems project. So the first thing you're going to do is go ahead and scroll down to templates if you haven't already done so. Open up our Pocketful of Poems templates assignment, and you should see the work that we started last time, and we can go ahead and open that. Okay, and then you should see the Pocketful of Poems, and all we did last time was do our Pocketful of Poems. Some of my classes did actually put our names in as well, but at least we have the Pocketful of Poems completed. So if you have not already opened Pocketful of Poems, please pause the video here and go ahead and do that now. Okay, and if you did not already type your first and last name, I do want to do that first. So if you are a class that did not write your name down here where it says type your name here, you're going to take your mouse and click and drag across to highlight everything that is red. And then you are going to type your first name and your last name with capital letters in place so that it now says written by and it has your first and last name. Okay, you can go and do that now and then come back to the video. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come back up and we are now going to work on our subtitle. So we did our Pocketful of Poems and now we're going to work on a collection of poems. So since this is our subtitle, we want it to be very large, but not quite as large as Pocketful of Poems. So we're going to start by highlighting like we always do. So I'm going to click and drag to highlight a collection of poems, and I am going to pick a font that I like. So remember, we're going to come up here to where it says Calibri, and I am going to pick anything that I like from my list like we did last time. So let's go with something like this. Okay, so you can go ahead and highlight a collection of poems on your template and pick a font and then come back here for the next step. Okay, the next part is actually making this larger. So we're going to leave this highlighted, right? We're going to keep it highlighted and we're going to come up here to the number and we're going to pick a number that is larger. So again, I want it to be big but not super huge. So again, we don't want it to go onto 2 lines. So since this went onto the next line, I need to go smaller than this. So let me drop this down to 36. Okay, that looks pretty good. So it's big, but not quite as big as Pocketful of Poems. So now I would like you to do the same thing. I would like you to go back to your document, come up to your numbers, and pick a number that makes a collection of poems larger, but not quite as big as Pocketful of Poems. Okay, once you have come back, we are now going to pick a color. The color that we're picking again is underneath the letter A. So we're not highlighting. Do not use the highlighter. We're only using the text color. So you can click on that letter A. Remember, we're trying to pick a darker color. Light colors are very hard to read. Yellows are very hard to read. If you want to do the custom colors, that's fine as well. So you can go ahead and pick a color of your choice. If you want to use bold, bold makes our words darker. If you want to use, or heavier, if you want to use italics, that kind of does the slant. We can do an underline. That's your choice. You can do 2 of those, a bold and a slant. That's up to you. I think I like kind of the italics. So you can go ahead to your document here and go pick a color and use one of the styles if you'd like. All right, now what I'd like to do at this point is click off, and if you notice when I clicked above, I do have a space in between these two. But since this is the title and this is the subtitle, I want these two to go together. So I want to get rid of the space that's in between. So as I am clicked on this spot, I am actually going to hit the backspace button on the keyboard. So you're going to click the mouse so your cursor is blinking in between those 2 lines, and we're going to hit the backspace button once, twice, and you should see that line, a collection of poems, jump up. So now they're closer together. And then you can kind of click below it, and now you're going to see they're grouped together like that. Go ahead to your document and try that now. Okay, great. So now we're going to be working with this group of words right here. The first thing we want to do is we want to get rid of poems that rhyme. This is actually a page I deleted. We're not going to be doing poems that rhyme anymore. So we're going to delete this entire line at once, and I want to show you how to delete groups of words at one time. So the first thing we're going to do is highlight the entire thing, and again we can click from the front and drag to highlight the whole thing, or you can click from the back and drag, click and drag. So we're going to highlight with our mouse, and then we're just going to hit the backspace button, and that's going to delete everything. Once you have deleted that, we're then going to pick a font for all of our words, and we're going to have to highlight again, but again, starting from the very first letter of the first word or from the very last letter of the last word. So I'm going to start from the beginning. What bugs me, I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag all the way down to the last letter of the last word. So I would like you to go try now to delete poems that rhyme, just like I did, and then highlight all of these like this with your mouse, and then come back here for the next step. Okay, great. So now that you have everything highlighted, you can go ahead and pick a font. Remember, our first step is always picking a font. And we do that because we said the size depends on which font we pick. So I'm going to pick, let's see, what font do I like for these? Let's go with, I actually kind of like this Carter one. So I'm going to pick Carter 1. And once I pick my font, I'm going to pick a size. Now I want this to be big, but not quite as big as this stuff. So I went with 24 for mine. So why don't you go ahead and pick a font and a size that makes sense for you? So large, but not quite as big as all of this. Go ahead and do that on your document now. Okay, great. And the next part, like we've always been doing, is picking our color. So we have our letter A. We can pick a color that works for us. So I am going to go with this kind of slate blue. I think I'm going to bold it a little bit. So I feel like that looks good with that particular color. So you can go ahead and pick your color choice now, and then scroll down and come back here. Okay, our last step is actually writing our date in. You can see the date is our old date, so we're going to highlight our date that says September 29th, 2023. Pretty close to where we are, but we're actually a year off. So we can leave September because we are still in September. And today is September 26th for me. So I'm going to put September 26th. Well, you can put whatever day it is for you when you're watching this video. It might be the 27th, it might be the 30th. If it's October, you can do that. You can put whatever date you want it is when you're watching this. And then I'm going to write 2024. That's the important part. Okay. And then here's the other important thing. See this space? Once again, we got that weird gap in between these letters that I want to get rid of. So I'm going to stick my cursor, I'm going to click right in between them. And now I got to erase that space. And I'm going to erase that space by using that backspace key again. So I'm going to hit backspace, backspace, and now I got rid of that space. So go ahead to your document and rewrite the date and erase that extra space between your name and date now. Okay, good. So now we have our last step. We're going to format the font, the size, and the color of the date and the name. So I'm going to pick a font that I like. Let's go with this Berkshire again. I'm going to pick size 18. Actually, 18 seems a little bit too big. Let's go with size 12. I'm going to pick a color. Let's go with green. I don't like it green. Let's go with this red color. Let's make it a little bit bigger. 14 looks good. Good. So now this is what it looks like so far, and I'm like, oh, this looks really good. All right, so why don't we have you go and format your name and date and see how yours looks. Okay, awesome. We have one last step to finish this off. The last step to finish this off is going to be the last step of every page that we do. And that's looking at the whole stage all the way together. The whole page, sorry, all the way together. So the first thing we're going to do is come up to this zoom here. And we're looking at 100% zoom. So we're going to zoom all the way out. We're going to drop this down to 50% so that we can see the whole page at once. And if you notice, when I'm at 50%, now I have this really humongous chunk of white space at the bottom. I'm like, ooh, that doesn't look good. So what I want to do is I want to add some spaces in so that I can spread out my words. So I'm going to click my cursor, and I'm going to click my cursor up here, and I'm going to hit some enters in. So I'm going to use my enter key and go enter, enter. And then I'm going to put my cursor and I'm going to click it down here, and I'm going to put some more spaces in. I'm going to say enter, enter, enter. And I'm like, all right, that looks a little better. Let me add another enter up here. Let me add another enter down there. And now I've used the whole space of the page, and I feel like that looks a lot better. So I want you to do the same thing. I want you to zoom out to 50%. I want you to click into each of these spaces, use that enter key to add some lines in, some spacing in, so that you can spread out your words and make things look a little bit more spaced out, and so that it's easier to read and it makes more sense. Okay, great. That is where we are stopping today. If you finished a little bit early, you can have the rest of the time as free time today, as long as you are quiet, because other people will still be working. Next class, we will go on to working on the What Bugs Me poem.
Noises.